whether it's football or just peak performance in general, why has resiliency kind of risen to the top in terms of the intangible factors that you look for?
Well, I think first of all, it's worth kind of defining in my words what it is to be resilient when we look at it, because I do think we all use a lot of words that mean different things to different people. So to me, when I think of resilience, there's really two components. One is like a strength component, a toughness, where you can withstand difficult times. But there's also a second part of that. It's when it's your ability to bounce back from adversity. And so really, if I like to think of like reading an EKG, if you look at an EKG, it's got this like up and down line. Well, to me, when I'm trying to measure resilience, I look at, okay, this is the event. What was the trigger? How large was the response? And then how long did it take the baseline? How long did it take to move from trigger back to baseline? That's a measure of resilience. That's a measure of resilience. And then once you kind of understand that, then I also look at how often that they're encountering those situations. So why is resilience so important to me? Well, first of all, I mean, we said it last year to our team. Chris said it, and he got the quote from somebody else, but he really captured it well when he said, everything we want to do is on the other side of hard. Everything we want to do is on the other side of hard. And it's right. If you want to do something great in any field, there's going to be difficulty as you get near the top of that mountain. Because everybody's good. And so to me, one is that in any journey where you do something meaningful, you are going to experience setbacks along the way. Think about us in 2018. We had the fortunate circumstance of starting the season 1-5. If all you're focused on there is just winning and the playoffs and all this other stuff, I think that dream, I think your drive evaporates. But coach was great during that time. He never flinched. Chris never flinched. Our organization never flinched. And all we really did was just kind of simplify over time. We just really, really honed in on the things that we could control. And that was about going out each and every day and trying to get a little bit better. Going out and get a little bit better. Whether we win or whether we lose, extract the learning from that so that we're better the next week. And then we were able to win, I think, 9 of 10 down the stretch and then get to the second round of the playoffs. But we were a much better team at the end of the year than we were early in the year. And a lot of that was because we had learned how to face adversity and extract the learning. So why is resilience so important? So my thoughts in a very, very general form on development, just development in general, if you're not uncomfortable, slightly to moderately, you're not getting better. Because it's only when we challenge the limits of our ability and force our body to adapt to those that we make gains. Think about it in the weightlifting scenario. Everybody's lifted weights, and if you put 135 on and you just do 135 forever, you will start to see initially you'll see some gains, but you're going to very quickly level off and you're going to plateau. And if you don't continue to challenge, you might even atrophy at that point or become a risk for injury. But so what do we do? We find ways to change the frequency, the intensity, the duration. What are we doing? We're stressing the system and forcing it to adapt. And when it adapts, it makes gains. It's like one of the things I like to ask players, I'll watch them and they're on the jugs machine and they're rhythm catching like passes and they'll go 100 for 100. And I often want to ask them, I'll ask them like, do you think you're getting better? And they most of them will say yes. And I don't know that I agree with that, because what systems in the body are you challenging that's going to force your body to adapt, that's going to make you better? I think in his best, when he was in his best, Julio Jones, what made him special is not that he could catch 100 like this, but that he could catch any ball within a 10-foot or 10-yard radius. So typically when we think of talent, we think of it we can see it in very narrow terms. One of the ways I like to think about it, it's what is the range over which you can execute. Everybody, like when we're training and we're doing our fundamentals and technique, we're doing a lot of our work, everything fits just right. But it doesn't play that way. It doesn't play that way. You know, do you ever, like, a couple days ago, Strauss was doing a drill where, you know, he's our offensive line coach, and he started the drill off by the defensive lineman already was in a position of advantage. He already had the drop on the offensive lineman. So what's that do? That places a premium on your fundamentals and technique. It places a premium on, you know, if you, I mean, at this level, if you can't play with fundamentals and technique, you're going to get beat because everybody's good. Everybody's good. And that's the problem is you may not have needed those fundamentals and technique to get here because you were so much better as an athlete, so much better of an athlete. You were so outmatched based on your competition that you could get by with a C-level understanding of the fundamentals.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've seen this in even some of the best athletes I've been around that haven't achieved really, they may have had some success, but maybe not achieved their potential. And I think kind of to your point, a lot of it goes back to that growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and, you know, how their success has been praised by parents and coaches. I've seen it too, where the biggest misses I've had, particularly on receivers, were guys that when I went back and looked at their film to see where I missed on the evaluation, all of their passes, they're 2-3 yards in front of the defensive back. Yeah. And there's no contested catches on the highlight film. And it kind of like, oh yeah, go ahead, please.
No, you're exactly it. I mean, you know, you take a player and out of 100 catches in a year, only 10 of them may be, going back to that environment, only 10 of those may be NFL-like, where somebody is on you, like has you truly covered. You may have them by half a step. To me, I think those are the ones that you need to be looking at, because the ability to execute under those conditions, that's transferable. Those open catches, sure. If we get the open catch, I suspect that they'll make it. But there's not a lot of free running in the NFL where you're just running around wide open and playing throw and catch.
Yeah, if you have 3 feet on your defender, that's pretty much wide open in the National Football League.
Well, I mean, to me, if you're slightly ahead of them, you've got something. You know, in really the way I think you have to capture it, the only way you are going to grow, improve your resilience, improve your capability, and learn and grow from those situations is you have to enter difficult situations with the mindset where you're not afraid to fail. You have to see, I have a saying I like to say, make adversity your teacher. Make adversity your teacher. So really what differentiates those who grow from a bad event, like me talking about my time post-combat, and those who don't, it's kind of their mindset. Do they believe that stress is good, or they believe that stress is bad? Do they believe pressure is good, or they believe pressure is bad? Because whether you think you can, or whether you think it is or it ain't, you're right. Whether you think it is or it ain't, you're right, because that's your attitude, that's your perspective, that's the lens by which you do it. If you think it's bad in the future, that's going to cause you to constrain your environment. You're going to pull away. You're going to shy away from those difficult things. But if you see that as opportunity, if you see it as good, then you will move toward the sound of guns, not away from them.